The Saudi Kingdom is a key ally in the US-led battle against ISIS, a terror group known to decapitate, crucify and flog its victims. The Gulf state sees all these acts as legal forms of punishment. The government-backed Human Rights Commission says all cases are judged and punished fairly and in accordance with Sharia or Islamic law.
All right, try this one on for size. The Middle Eastern nation that sentenced a blogger to 10 years in prison and 1,000 lashes for insulting Islam on his website, that has executed 90 people since the beginning of the year for non-violent drug offenses, and that ejected a woman from a shopping center for sitting too close to a man, this country wants to lead the United Nations Human Rights Council beginning in 2016. Welcome to Bizarro World. Let's also welcome the former United States ambassador to Saudi Arabia, James Smith, and political analyst focusing on the Middle East and the rise of radical movements from Mint Press, Catherine Shakdam. I want to thank you both for joining us, and I want to begin right away by showing people a graphic. The differences between ISIS, state punishment, and Saudi Arabia punishment. There is almost no difference, from the cutting off of hands to death, to certain lashes, to crucifixion even in some areas for ISIS. Catherine, this is frightening to look at here, because why in the name of common sense would anybody think that Saudi Arabia could be seen as being good for human rights?
Well, that's something that I really would like to know this, and I think it's really frightening. And I'm very happy that you made, this parallel in between ISIS and Saudi Arabia, because essentially they share in the same ideology, which is Wahhabi Islam. And I think that when it comes to Saudi Arabia, we need to really open our eyes here and realize that they are not just funding terror, they are actually promoting the ideology of terror. And, to allow such a country to rise, at the presidency of the UN Human Rights Council would actually equate to almost legalizing these kind of violations against human rights. And that to me is very frightening.
James, you were there from September of 2009 to September of 2013 as the U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia. You've seen the people, you've seen the country up close. Are we overstating anything here, or are all of these people right when they point out that Saudi Arabia has no record that they can stand on for human rights?
Well, there is merit in what Catherine says. I don't dispute that we are challenged by their record on capital punishment, on the arrest of bloggers. The issue, though, is what do you do about it? I'm not sure that the appropriate course is just to continue to isolate them. In my view, sunlight is the best antiseptic. So these are issues that I think are important for public debate, and they're important for debate at the United Nations. I'd also submit to you that Saudi Arabia faces a very unique challenge now, because Daesh has come home to roost. And with the attacks in the eastern province over these last few weeks, and the attack in Al-Hassa last fall, then it has become an attack on Saudi citizens. So at some point, they have got to stand up in their role, their self-appointed role as the custodian of the two holy mosques.
But let me get to this,
for all Muslims.
James, if I can, and where time is very short here, but is it possible for them to change? Their law is based in Wahhabism, which is centuries old, and they don't seem to want to change at all. So is it just impossible to ask them to change?
They're either going to have to change, or they will be dealing with an internal crisis that may be beyond their ability to contain it.
So, Catherine, to you then, when it comes to that internal crisis, from your knowledge, are the people of Saudi Arabia willing to actually stand up, willing to almost revolt, if you will, against this government? Because I haven't seen any signs of that happening, and certainly the governments of the world continue to do business with Saudi Arabia to the tunes of billions of dollars. Nobody's holding them to account.
Well, I mean, as far as the people are concerned, absolutely. I mean, Saudi have had enough of the Saudi regime. But then you have to remember that we are talking about an absolute monarchy, a theocracy, which is violently repressive. I mean, whenever someone is trying to speak up or even just, criticize the government, not just the king, just the government, they are thrown in jail and killed. So, of course, it is very difficult for people to organize themselves. But if I may, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, I mean, when we talk about trying to make them face, their own reality and their own change, I think that we need to understand very clearly that, the House of Saud is based on Wahhabism, and they cannot extract themselves from this alliance that they have built, back in the 18th century. And I think it's really the case of us forcing them to go and have, them replaced with another form of regime. Democracy would be a really good thing, for example. To have Western powers engage with a violent theocracy is difficult to come to terms with.
James, I got about 45 seconds left. In your opinion, does the United Nations have the guts, the intestinal fortitude that it takes, the people there, to say absolutely not? We cannot allow this to happen because, quite frankly, you beat and butcher your own people. Well,
I don't know that is the appropriate course of action. I think Saudi Arabia should be brought into the public debate. I honestly believe that they have to come to terms with the unintended consequence of their regional policy of exporting their brand of Islam, which in their mind is stability, but it actually has been the exporting of intolerance, in the same way that Iran has to come to terms with the unintended consequences of their strategy since 1979 of instability in the region.
We are going to have to call it there because we're out of time, unfortunately, James.
Daesh.
But we agree. We brought up some excellent points here. We will revisit this again. Catherine Shakdam, James Smith, thank you so much for joining us. Stay with us. We turn to the Money Master next, right here on MidPoint.